this is Carla, and welcome back to the studio. And welcome back to another episode of Throwback Thursday. This will actually be our last Throwback Thursday for 2023, in which we'll be featuring a retired Halloween set. So for this Thursday, I'll be featuring the Bewitching stamp set along with the coordinating Witch's Hat Builder Punch, I believe it's called. So let's go ahead and get started. So for our first card, I have a piece of gorgeous Grape cardstock measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic black measuring 5 1/4 by 4. I have a piece of the retired Black and White Designs DSP measuring 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. I have a piece of Vellum measuring 3.5 by 2.5. A piece of basic black cardstock measuring 3 inches by 2 3/4. A piece of gorgeous Grape measuring 2.5 by 2 1/4. And then a scrap of basic black and Parakeet Party. So let's get started with folding our card base and then bringing in our bone folder. So go ahead and give it a nice crease, and we'll set that aside. Now we're going to get a little inky. So I have my blending brush and my gorgeous Grape ink. And let's bring in a piece of scrap paper. And I'm going to bring in my piece of DSP, and I'm going to color this black and purple. So I'm going to start it off, kind of brush off to the side, and then go onto the paper and then ink it up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to speed this up so we can get full coverage of the purple on here. Okay, so I took my heat tool to it just to dry it so we can go ahead onto the next step without getting our fingers all inky with purple. Even though purple's a really nice color, yeah, we don't really want it all over our fingers. So I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to adhere it to this piece of basic black. Just have a small border going around, so, and then we'll adhere this piece onto our card base. Like so. Okay. And then for my vellum piece, I'm going to use the 3D Cobwebs embossing folder. So I'm going to take this and I will put this aside because we'll do any punching and embossing all at the same time. So for my larger piece of the basic black, I'll be using the retired cat punch for that. And then for our gorgeous grape piece and for the Parakeet party, I'll be using the punch and also this black piece, because I'll do the band in black, the stars in the green, and the hat in purple. Okay, so let's bring in all our pieces. So I'm going to take some adhesive and I'm going to put it right in the middle of this piece of vellum. Most of this will get covered up by our pieces, because otherwise you will see the adhesive. And I will put that right in the middle of our card. And you can see a little bit of the adhesive behind there. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my black dimensionals, and we're going to put some on our cat. And we're going to put our cat right about here. Like so. And then for our hat, I went ahead and I used some of the gorgeous grape ink that was on that brush, and I just brushed around the edges of that hat. So I'm going to bring in my glue, and I'm going to take the band for the hat. I'm just going to add a little glue, and let me bring in my silicone craft sheet so I don't get any ink on my paper. And I will go ahead and put the band on the hat. Like so. And then for my stars, flatten them out a little bit. I will add, let's see, we'll add one up here, and one here, and one over here. Bigger one down here. Just a little bit more. And put this one there. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in some of the retired metallic mesh ribbon. And I don't need a very big piece. A piece like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie this around the hat. So that way it's just around that black band. I'll go ahead and tie it into a knot. Like so. And I'll just trim these ends a little bit. Okay. And then I'll bring in some more dimensionals. We'll kind of hold this down. It's not really tight. I'll bring in a small one to put up at the very top. And then make sure that our meshes okay. There. Okay, you can take this out of the way. We're done with those. Go ahead and remove these backings. And we'll take our hat and we'll put it on our cat's head. Like so. And then I'm going to bring in my Stella after I close up my glue. And then I'm just going to brush some Stella on the stars just to give them a little bit of a shimmer. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in some of our iridescent pearls. These two are also retired. And I'll bring in, take a pick tool, and let's see, we'll take one and we'll put it down here, like half on the vellum and on the card, so it holds down that corner. And then we'll put one like right up here, and then another one over here. Okay, so that is our first card. So on to the second. Okay, so for my second card, I have a piece of basic black measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. A piece of Parakeet Party measuring 5 1/4 by 4. Another piece of that Black and White Designs DSP measuring 5 1/4 by 1 1/2. A 4 1/2 by 3 inch piece of pumpkin pie. A 4 by 2 1/2 inch basic white, and a 3 by 3 inch basic white piece of cardstock. So let's go ahead and take our card base and fold and burnish that so my paper stays. Okay, we'll put that aside. So for my Parakeet Party cardstock, I'm going to use the Cobwebs 3D embossing folder again for that. So I'll set that aside because we'll do all the embossing and the punching, and actually we'll be doing some heat embossing for this card and die cutting as well. Also, I'll be using the deckled rectangles dies. These are currently in our annual catalog, so I will be using that for both my pumpkin pie and my basic white cardstock. So we'll put that aside. And then for this piece, I'll be stamping the witch's hat using Versamark ink, and then I will be embossing it with some black embossing powder. Again, that I'll do all that together so I can speed it up and the video won't go very long. Okay, so let me go ahead and put this aside. That goes to that. Well, got to stamp that first. Okay, so for this piece of DSP, we're going to do some coloring on some of these. So I'm bringing in my dark Orchid Oasis Stampin' Blend marker. This is the dark Parakeet Party, dark Pumpkin Pie, and the dark Daffodil Delight. Now the Daffodil Delight I'm not going to use for this portion. It'll be a little bit later. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my dark Orchid Oasis and I'm just going to color over this one stripe. And I'll do the same on this one. And down at the bottom. Okay. And then I will come in with my Parakeet Party. And I will do that line right underneath it. And then down at the bottom. And then our pumpkin pie. And I'm just using the side of the brush tip. I'm not going straight down on the tip. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we'll set this aside to dry. This we'll adhere this to our card base. Okay, so let's see. Okay. So right now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do the dry embossing with the embossing folder. I'll do the die cutting, and then I'll go ahead and I'll do the stamping and add the embossing powder and heat set that. And for all of this, I'll go ahead and I'll speed it up and you can listen to that really cool Halloween music that I've added. Okay, I'll see you in a bit. So I'm going to take these pieces, and the little spot was missed. And actually, I'm going to do a little something to fix that so it's not so noticeable. I'm going to bring in my dark basic black Stampin' Blend, and I'm just going to go over just that in those spots so the white doesn't look so noticeable. Okay. Now I'm going to use my blends to go and color in some of the spots on these pieces. So for the hat, let's see, I'm going to start with my dark Orchid Oasis, and I'm just going to, out of these colors, I'm going to color in 5 of the dots. And let's see, we'll go here, and right here, and then I'll do the top band of the band on the hat. And then on this one. And I think that's it on that one. And then on the legs, I'm going to color the top band of the socks. Okay. And then bring in my Parakeet Party. Like that. And then we'll do the next band on the sock. Bring in the pumpkin pie. Okay, and then we'll do the last one on the sock. And then I'll use my dark Daffodil Delight to do the buckles on the boots. Okay. Looks like the marker picked up some of the black embossing powder. Okay, so then I'm going to bring in my little black spider and my Memento Tuxedo black ink, and I'm going to ink him up. Come up really good. And then I'm going to add him like right about here. Like so. And then we're going to bring in our punch. Go ahead and punch out this hat. May have to trim the bottom of it. inches. Okay. Just going to line it up. Punch that out. Get rid of all the little bits. Glue everywhere. And then I'm going to take this white piece and I'm going to adhere it down to my pumpkin pie piece, like so. And then I'm going to bring in my dimensionals and add it to the hat. And since the heat embossing had warped the cardstock some, I'm going to put enough down so that way it'll lay flat. It's a bit more than what I would usually use. The black dimensionals seem like they're stickier than the white ones. Okay, and then I'm going to take the hat and I'm going to put it right over towards the top of those socks, like so. And then I'll go ahead and put some dimensionals on the back of this. I'll bring in my white ones for this one. Okay, so we'll kind of put that aside. And then I'll take my Parakeet party piece. I'll put that on my card base. Actually, I'll put it on this side. I didn't notice until I went to put down the measurements that I noticed that there was a crease on that card base. So we'll just cover it up. Okay, and then I'll bring in my DSP and I'll add some adhesive onto that. And then I'll add that about here. And then I'll take this piece and I'll add that on top. Like so. And then I'll bring in my embellishments and I take your pick tool and I'll add a few of these onto the card. I like these. They're black, but they got an iridescent, so they take on like a lot of different colors. Okay. So that is card number 2. On to our third one. Okay, so for my third card, I have a piece of pumpkin pie measuring 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. I have a piece of basic black measuring 5 1/4 by 4. I have a piece of the Gingham Cottage DSP. This is a retired DSP measuring 5 1/8 by 3 7/8. And then I have a piece of black glitter paper measuring 3 3/4 by 3 inches, and I have added some of a piece of adhesive sheet on the back so we could adhere it, because adding glue would be very, very messy for that piece. I also have a scrap piece measuring 4 1/4 by 2 3/4 of basic black. I have a 3 by 3 basic white, a 3" by 5/8 of an inch basic white, and then just a little scrap of basic white. So I'll go ahead and I'll fold and burnish my card base like so. Okay, we'll put that aside, and then I will go ahead and take this DSP and I will adhere it down to my basic black layer. Actually, I'm going to add some of this silver meshed ribbon to this card as well. I'm going to actually wrap it around the DSP and then put it down on that piece of basic black. I'm going to take and just put it around about the middle. Like so. Just kind of stick that down and we'll cut off the excess. Okay. And I'll go ahead and I'll add a little bit more. Do you need to add any there? It'll stick really well in that spot. Okay. And we'll put that down. And for this, there's just a very small border all the way around. Okay. And then we'll take this and adhere it to our card base. Like so. Up straight. Okay. So we'll set that aside. Then I will also be using Bat Punch. It's a retired punch. I believe it's a bat punch. So with this piece, I'll punch those out. Again, I'm going to do all the punching and the die cutting and fussy cutting all at once. So that'll be for that. For this piece here, I'm going to stamp my witch's hat using the Memento Tuxedo black ink. And I'm actually going to take the ink pad, to the stamp. I'll go ahead and stamp it down. And just hold it for a moment so the ink transfers. Okay, I'll set that aside. And then I will, on my little itty bitty scrap, I will stamp my spider. Not worrying too much about the dots that are above him because I'm not going to cut those. Okay, and then I'm going to bring in my greeting that says "You're Spooktacular," and that comes from the retired Trick or Tweet stamp set. Okay, so I'm going to take my strip, I'm going to ink this up, and I am going to try and do this where it's straight. It's straight. Yay! Okay, so let's put those aside. We'll close this up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to speed up this portion of the video. So let me explain what I'm going to be doing. So with my bat punch, I will go ahead and I will punch out these 3 bats out of that cardstock. For my glimmer paper, I'll be using the Chic dies. I'll be using this one here, and I'll be cutting the glitter paper with that. Now for this, because the glitter paper is just a little bit thicker, and then there's like a coating on the back, and plus I have this adhesive sheet, I'm going to have to pass that through a few times so that way it fully cuts that out. I will also fussy cut my little spider, and then I will trim down my little greeting a little bit so I can put it on the card, and then I'll also go ahead and color in the witch's hat. And for the witch's hat, I'll be using my dark and light basic black blends and my dark and light pumpkin pie. Okay, see you in a moment. So I'm going to take this piece of this glitter paper and I'm going to go ahead and remove the paper backing. Being a little gentle with it so that way I don't tear it. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to, let's see, adhere it over on top, like so. And just press that down. Okay, and so for my hat, I'm going to add some dimensionals to this. And I'll use my white one since the color on this one is a little bit lighter and it's not dark. Oops. And then I'll take a little bit of adhesive and I'll put it on the back of this. And then my hat, let's see, my hat's gonna go like about here, and then I'm gonna take my greeting and put it down about here. Get it straight, and then my hat will sit, let's see, right about here. And then I'll bring in my spider. Now, I don't like spiders, but I mean, come on, look at him. He's kind of cute. So let's see, I'm going to bring in, you can use a little small black dimensional for the back of him. And I will put him like right on the band of the hat. And then I'm going to bring in my Winkostella. And actually I should have done this part before I put the spider down, but I'll kind of go around. I like adding Winkostella over pieces that I've colored with my blends. It brings out the color a little bit more, makes it a little bit brighter. Winkostella is good for those that like to have like some sparkle but don't like the mess of using a loose glitter. It adds a very fine glittery shimmer to it. Okay. Okay, so we got our hat done. And then I'm going to bring in my bats. And I'm going to use my small black dimensionals for them. Let's see. I'm going to take this one. Put one right. Try to get that to where it's not sticking out. And we'll add this one up here. And then we'll take this one that one over there, and then for our final one, add these two dimensionals here. Maybe get one, put one in the middle. Get that right there. Okay, we'll add that one right there. And then I'm going to bring in my iridescent pearls again. And I'm going to add a few around, let's see, take this one here, add it up here, and then we'll take another large one and put it right there. Okay, so that's our third card. Let me just go ahead and bring it up so you can see it. It's got a lot of dimension to it, a lot of sparkle to it. So I'll move this. Let me bring in my other cards. Okay, so this was our first card. A lot of purple in our cat. And here's our second one. Colorful, and did some heat embossing and coloring for that. And then this is our third one with a lot of die cutting and a lot of glitz. So I thank you for joining me for this episode of Throwback Thursday. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is actually going to be the last Halloween set of projects for 2023 for the month of we're in the month of October. Next Saturday I will have another Halloween themed project. I'll be using Tricks and Treats, I think is the name of it. And then I will do one more video actually that I will post on October 31st on Halloween. And for that, let me bring them in. I have a few retired stamp sets that came from Paper Pumpkins in the past that are all, like Halloween themed. So I'm going to pull a couple out and I'm going to create 3 cards. I know I'm definitely going to use this one. So that'll be posted on October 31st. So again, thank you for joining me for this episode of Throwback Thursday. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, and that way you'll be notified. I believe you need to hit the notification bell on there, and you'll be notified of when my next video is posted up on my channel. So I thank you so much for joining me. Everyone, have a great day. Bye-bye.